On December 1, 1969, the Selective Service System of the United States conducted 2 lotteries to determine the order of call to military service in the Vietnam War for men born from 1944 to 1950. These lotteries occurred during the draft a period of conscription, controlled by the President, from just before World War II to 1973. The lottery numbers assigned in December 1969 were used during calendar year 1970 both to call for induction and to call for physical examination, a preliminary call covering more men. Method: the days of the year were represented by the numbers 1 through 366 written on slips of paper. The slips were placed in separate plastic capsules that were mixed in a shoebox and then dumped into a deep glass jar. Capsules were drawn from the jar one at a time. The first number drawn was 258, so all registrants with that birthday were assigned lottery number 1. The second number drawn corresponded to April 24, and so forth. All men of draft age who shared a birth date would be called to serve at once. The first 195 birth dates drawn were later called to serve in the order they were drawn. The last of these was September 24. Also on December 1, 1969, a second lottery was held, with the 26 letters of the alphabet. Among men with the same birth date, the order of induction was determined by the permutation ranks of the first letters of their last, first, and middle names. Anyone with initials JJJ would have been first within the shared birth date. Anyone with initials VVV would have been last. People soon noticed that the lottery numbers were not distributed uniformly over the year. In particular, November and December births, or dates 306 to 366, were assigned mainly to lower draft numbers representing earlier calls to serve. This led to complaints that the lottery was not random as the legislation required. Analysis of the procedure suggested that mixing 366 capsules in the shoebox did not mix them sufficiently before dumping them into the jar. However, the non-uniform lottery was allowed to stand. Only 5 days in December December 2nd, 12th, 15th, 17th and 19th were higher than the last call number of 195. Were the days evenly distributed, 14 days in December would have been expected to remain uncalled. Draft lotteries were conducted again in 1970 and 1971 to 1975. The draft numbers issued in 1972 were never used to call for induction into service, because the last call was December 7 and authority to induct expired June 30, 1973. The 1972 to 1975 lottery numbers were used to call some men born 1953 to 1956 for physical exams. The highest number called for a physical was 215. Origins and consequences. In the late 1960s, President Nixon established a commission to recommend the best ways to raise military manpower, to keep the draft or to institute a volunteer army. After much debate within the Nixon administration and Congress, it was decided that an all-volunteer force was affordable, feasible, and would enhance the national unregistered trademark's security. U.S. President Richard Nixon issued an executive order prescribing regulations for random selection of the United States Selective Service System on November 26, 1969. The 1970s were a time of turmoil in the United States, beginning with the civil rights movement which set the standards for practices by the anti-war movement. The 1969 draft lottery only encouraged resentment of the Vietnam War and the draft. It strengthened the anti-war movement all over America as people decried discrimination by the draft system against low education, low income, underprivileged members of society. The 26th Amendment to the Constitution was proposed March 23, 1971 and ratified on the 100th day following July 1, 1971 in response to charges against the validity of the American social contract. Taxation without representation is tyranny. From the American Revolution 1775-1783. Especially as regarded an undeclared war. The draft lottery had social and economic consequences because it generated resistance to military service and the resistors, draft evaders or draft dodgers, were generally young, well-educated, healthy men. Some chose the legal sanctions for refusing military service, such as imprisonment, either showing their disapproval by burning their draft cards or draft letters, or simply not presenting themselves for the military service test. Others left the country, commonly moving to Canada. The number of American citizens who moved to Canada during the Vietnam War because of the draft is estimated to be around 125,000. It is believed that about half returned to the United States after the Nixon era. According to the Department of Defense in 2003, an all-volunteer forces would have been more cost-efficient. Modification: lottery procedure was improved next year, although public discontent continued to grow until authority to induct expired on June 30, 1973. In 1970, covering 1951 birthdates for use during 1971, scientists at the National Bureau of Standards prepared 78 random permutations of the numbers 1 to 366 using random numbers selected from published tables. From the 78 permutations, 25 were selected at random and transcribed to calendars using 1 equals January 1st, 2 equals January 2nd, 365 equals December 31st. Those calendars were sealed in envelopes. 25 more permutations were selected and sealed, and 25 more envelopes without transcription to calendars. The 2 sets of 25 envelopes were furnished to the Selective Service System. On June 2, an official picked 2 envelopes, thus 1 calendar and 1 raw permutation. The 365 birthdates were written down, placed in capsules, and put in a drum in the order dictated by the selected calendar. Similarly, the numbers from 1 to 365 were written down and placed into capsules in the order dictated by the raw permutation. On July 1, the drawing date, 1 drum was rotated for an hour and the other for a half hour. Pairs of capsules were then drawn, 1 from each drum, 1 with a 1951 birth date and 1 with a number 1 to 366. The first date and number drawn were September 16 and 139, so all men born September 16, 1951, were assigned draft number 139. The 11th draws were the date July 9 and the number 1, so men born July 9 were assigned draft number 1 and drafted first. References. External links, landscaper.net. The Military Draft and 1969 Draft Lottery for the Vietnam War. Last modified March 24, 2009. Confirmed May 26, 2011. Contemporary news stories, images of official orders, lottery results, draft board classifications, Vietnam troop levels, induction statistics 1917 73. David Lane. Introduction to Graphs, Clearing Up the Draft with Graphs. Connections July 18, 2003. Confirmed May 26, 2011. List of draft ranks, additional analysis. Selective Service System. The Vietnam Lotteries. SSS, History and Records. Last updated September 19, 2015. Norton Star. Non-Random Risk, the 1970 Draft Lottery. Journal of Statistics Education 5.2. Confirmed May 26, 2011. The online edition includes instructions for getting the data online and a lesson plan for statistics class using the 1970 and 1971 draft lottery data. Feinberg, S.E. Randomization and Social Affairs, the 1970 Draft Lottery. Science 171, 255 261 doi, 10.1126/Science. 171.3968.255. Rosenbaum, David E. Statisticians charge draft lottery was not random. New York Times. Pages 66.